Hey everyone, it's Kathleen from Kathleen Marie Design. In today's lesson, we'll be learning how to make this optical illusion checkerboard op-art. Op-art is a type of art that uses optical illusions to fool your eye. So we are creating the illusion that these two circles are looking more three-dimensional, 3D, popping out of our checkerboard design. Let's get started. For this lesson, we will need a sheet of computer paper is what I'm using, but you can use something larger. A ruler. I will be using a Sharpie so you can see it more clearly, but I recommend you using a pencil and eraser. You will also need something to trace a circle. Anything you find in your house that is a circle will work. I am using two different circle sizes. I am using this larger circle that's a roll of tape and a smaller circle that is a lid from a Tupperware. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to trace our circles onto our paper. I'm going to put, they can really be anywhere you want. I'm going to put it like this. This is where I recommend you using a pencil in case you mess up. Start with my larger circle. And now I will add the smaller circle. Okay, the next step is we are going to take a ruler and we are going to draw our checkerboard. Since I'm using a piece of computer paper, I am going to end up with an uneven amount of lines because my ruler is 1 inch width and a computer paper is 8.5. So the last section will be a little bit smaller. If you don't want this to be an issue, you should use a piece of paper that is an even amount, doesn't end in a half. What we're going to do is we're going to line up the paper. The first line is very important, making sure your ruler lines up perfectly with your edge. I'm going to draw a line, but anytime I get to a circle, I need to stop and jump over it. We are essentially tracing our ruler, so for the remaining lines, I'm going to line my ruler up with the line, spread my fingers out. That will ensure that I get a nice firm grip on the ruler and it will not slide. Draw the line, making sure to jump over the circle. I'm going to continue doing this until I get across to the other side. Now this is where I was mentioning, if I line it up evenly, I will end up with one section that's a little bit skinnier. To take care of that, I will draw that line, and what I can do is I can now trim my paper so that all my sections are equal. You could also leave the skinnier line, it's up to you. To make the checkerboard work, I now need to do the lines in the opposite direction. I find it easier to rotate my paper and do it the same way. So the first one, I'll really make sure it's lined up with the edge, draw my line. This will create intersecting lines to complete the checkerboard pattern. Don't forget to jump over any circle. Same thing, a little bit skinnier there, so I can keep it the way it is or trim it. It's up to you. I think in this instance, I'm going to keep it because I need space at the bottom for my shadow. So I want to have enough space under here. I could also, if I wanted this to be the top, add my shadow here. It doesn't matter. The next step is we are going to do the same thing for our circles, except the lines will end up a little bit different in the center to create the illusion. Now, this is a coincidence that my center lines do line up with the background, but that doesn't always happen. So what I need to do is I do need to draw a line that goes down the center in both directions. Now, just out of luck, it ends up lining up with the background, but that doesn't always happen. And let's see, in this instance, you can see that this center line actually goes into the middle of here, and it's not quite lined up. So if your center does not line up with the background, don't worry about it. This was just a happy coincidence that it somehow ended up being equally through the center. All right, now the rest of the lines in the circle are not going to be straight, and that's what's going to create your illusion. We are going to add 3 lines on each side, but they need to be curved following the curve of the circle. I am not going to line up with the lines in the background anymore. I'm going to ignore them. The first 2 are going to arc out on the right and left and come back to center. So we curve out and go back to center. Curve out and go back to center. I am trying to keep the space of the curve equal on both sides. Now lines 2 and 3 are not going to go to center. They are going to go to the top and the edges. This is a mistake a lot of people make. They try to bring it back to center. You do not need to. I'm going to slide over, curve number 2 and number 3. Same on this side, 2 and 3. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing over here. The first 2 touch center, 1 and 2. Really making sure these lines are curved. If they're not curved, the illusion will not work as well. Okay, we need to do the same thing in the opposite direction, and I do think it's helpful. I have an easier job doing it this way, so instead of doing the lines like that, I'm just going to rotate my paper. Now we're working off of this center line, doing the same thing. This is going to create the checkerboard. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll do it on the other side. 1, 2, 3 on that side. 1, 2, 3. If you want, you can do more than 3 lines on each side. It only will get just a little bit trickier to color. The next step is to color. I recommend choosing 2 contrasting colors. So one option is to have black, and then you can do basically any other color. Black with a highlighter works really well because the highlighter is really bright. But if you don't want to choose black, you don't have to. You can do 2 colors, but make sure they're not 2 dark colors. I would choose 1 dark and 1 bright. When you're coloring, the one thing that you need to remember is that a checkerboard is a pattern in both directions. So it goes black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink. If I started my second row with black, I would end up getting a black stripe and a pink stripe. The second row always has to be the opposite because it is a pattern in both directions, horizontally and vertically. Black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink. Now, if this were a standard checkerboard, it wouldn't be so hard to color, but the circles end up getting in the way of the pattern. I recommend marking your pattern before coloring, not with a marker, with a pencil in case you mess up. So if I were going to do black and pink again, this one would be black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black. The second row was opposite, so this would be pink and this one would be black. But I'm not sure what this one is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do all the rows where I can see all the way across. So let me go down. Black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black. Okay, and now I can go up. Okay, I can see all of those. I can still see all of this one, even though it's a little bit covered. Is there any other row that I can see all the way across? I can see all the way down. And I think that's it. Now you might assume, since this one was black, this one was pink. That is correct because there are two rows below it. So this would be black, beneath it would be pink, that would be black, that would be pink. So it did work out, but that's not always the case. So if you are not sure what this one would be, you need to look above it, below it, to the right and left. If I'm not sure what this one is, and I look above and I see that there's a black dot, that's what tells me that this one's gonna be empty. So this one will have a dot. If this one has a dot, empty, dot, they start to line up diagonally. So if I am looking diagonally, I see that these two will line up. This will line up diagonally. So I can keep going until I get it all filled in. The same is going to be with the circles. You can start anywhere. Black, pink, black, pink. Now I'm going to go over. Black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black. This teeny little triangle that you can barely even see, that counts. We do not want to ignore that. So this teeny one, barely see it, will be pink. So this one will be black, pink, black, pink, black, pink, black, pink. So you get all the way around for every circle. Then you're going to take the time, and it will take some time, to color every single one with a dot, solid black, and then every one that does not have a dot will be whatever other color you choose. Give yourself some time, color that in, and then we'll talk about the next step. The next step is going to be adding a shadow. So you'll have everything colored in. The illusion is starting to work already, but to make it work completely, we need to add a shadow underneath our circle to create the illusion that this is 3D. To do that, you need to create value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. You cannot create value with a marker unless you're doing stippling or cross-hatching. So we are going to use a crayon. You can also use a colored pencil. You are going to match your crayon or color pencil with whatever is your darker color. So since I use black, I will be using black as my crayon or colored pencil shadow color. Say you use purple or yellow. You need to choose the darker one. So if your checkerboard is purple and yellow, your shadow will be purple. Say you use blue and orange. Blue is the darker color, so your shadow will be blue. You must match your crayon or colored pencil and your shadow to whatever the darker color is. Before we get to the final copy, we are going to practice creating value. Value is spelled V-A-L-U-E. Value is one of the 7 elements of art. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. So let's create a bar where we are going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the way we create value is 2 things. You can create value by how hard you are pressing on your with your tool. So this will be a crayon, and how many passes. So if I push down very hard, I get a broken crayon. Okay, let's try to push a little bit lighter so that we don't break it. So I'm trying to stay in the box. This is a practice, so it doesn't matter as much. If I push hard, I get a darker value. And that's just 1 pass. It's pretty dark. You might think that's as dark as it can go. But more passes by changing directions, so this is now diagonally, is going to get it even darker. So if you continue to change directions, getting some dust, sometimes you can change your paper to help you get in other directions. It's going to make it even darker. So the more times you go over it, right? And if you're changing your directions, you're making a very dark value. So as I go, I'm going to do less pressure. So I'm not pushing as hard, and less passes to make a lighter value. I do like to work kind of on a diagonal. It's just the way it feels more comfortable for my arm. As I go across, you will see I will get lighter. I am not pushing as hard, and I'm doing less passes. And as you get to the end, you can only really push so light. So I'm starting to get lighter. I can't really push lighter than this. So what does that mean? How do I create a lighter value if I can't push any lighter? That means I need to start to leave some of the white of my paper. So I'm starting to leave white gaps, and for this last one, I'm gonna leave a lot more white gaps to make it even lighter yet. So we have 6 different values, but for the shading of our circle, we only need 3 or 4, mostly a dark, a medium, or a light. So I'm going to take my circle tracer again, trace my circle, a shadow depends on a light source. The length and placement of the shadow depends where the light is coming from. So if the sun was shining onto this sphere, because we're imagining it to be 3D, if it was coming from the top, the shadow would be at the bottom, and that's what we're imagining. So I need to create a dark, medium, and light shadow on the bottom. If I have a round object, my shadow must be round. I cannot have a scratchy, rough shadow if the shape itself is round. Now, I want the shadow to be at the bottom, but I work a little bit better with it at the top. So wherever you want your shadow to be, you can decide which way looks better. So I decided that this was going to be the top, this one's going to be the bottom. But then I like to work upside down because it feels a little bit more comfortable for my hand. So if this is the top, this is the bottom, but I'm just working upside down. The shadow is only going to be at the bottom half. So right underneath my circle, I am pushing in a hard value. Lots of passes back and forth. Kind of turning my paper as I go because it's a little bit more comfortable for my arm. I am doing my darkest value only on the bottom half. Okay. Now, as my shadow grows, it grows downwards, not out. So when I do my medium, I'm going to go down a little bit on the circle and keep it tapered in nice and round. So I'm going to add some medium, really blending from my dark to medium so you don't have a harsh line. Keeping it round. You might need to practice this more than once until you get it just right. Right there you can see a harsh line, so really blend it so that the medium and the dark blend into each other. As I said, I'm going to taper that in. My shadow is growing downwards, so as it gets taller or longer, it's just going to be more so at the ends. So right now I'm going to do a light. I'm not going back up here, I'm starting lower. I'm adding a lighter value, just like we practiced. I'm not pushing as hard. Blending my medium into a light. And I'm gonna add one more at the very top. I'm gonna add, or very bottom once we flip it over, an extra light. I'm leaving some space in between my lines and stretching my shadow out. So you can kind of round it out if you flip it over. Okay, making sure dark to medium to light to extra light is blended. Okay, the illusion is not working as much right now because we have nothing going on here. But once you implement this technique underneath your finished checkerboard, the illusion really starts to work. I would love to see how this comes out, so please send me a picture when you're done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.